Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we're discussing the past of Horus Lupercal, as we ask if he was always intended to be different from his Primarch brothers, or if maybe the Emperor intervened. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we will be discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But, with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, now the name Horus Lupercal truly needs no introduction. His name is the most infamous in all of 40k history. Yet it always is worth remembering that this most fallen of stars was once the brightest of them all. The Heresy series has been so long-winding and spanned so many years now, that with each Primarch taking their turn to shine, Horus's original shine gets harder and harder to remember. However, the fact remains that Horus Lupercal was undoubtedly Warmaster for a reason. He was the first amongst equals, and widely accepted by his brothers, whether we choose to believe it or not, as the greatest of them. Now, undoubtedly a large portion of Horus's success has been attributed to his many years alone by his father's side. Regardless of Alfarius's possible true finding time, the fact remains that Horus, and Horus alone, spent many decades alone by his father's side, campaigning together across the stars. And well, no other Primarch can ever truly compare to that. But was it just happenstance that Horus was found so early, or was Horus always intended to be the brightest? If, say, Russ or Ferrus had been first, would they instead have been named Warmaster? Or was it simply the natural evolution of Horus that made him stand apart? And well, while we'll most likely never have the answers to that question, we have been blessed with a real intriguing insight into Horus's earliest past, and one which really does open up wider questions into my mind. Now, in the Blood of the Emperor anthology, there's a short story named Lupus Daemonis, which shows us a Horus Lupercal upon Cophonia before his reuniting with the Emperor. And this is a very young Horus amidst the brutal dark depths of Cophonia's Underhive. And here, rather than the standard Primarch conquering his way through the populace as you might expect, we get to see a Horus at his earliest, as still a child. And I thoroughly recommend you check this one out because it's a real intriguing read, and one I really feel my mantra of everyone interprets things differently really applies, because I've seen so many different theories on this one, from Horus's upbringing was all a simulation by the Emperor, to he was placed upon Cophonia the entire time, or like I still lean to myself, it was simply his own unique experience, as all the Primarchs had on their own worlds. However, there is one particular issue I wanted to discuss today, because however you look at it, Horus definitely doesn't seem to have had the same experiences as his kin. Unlike many of his other brothers, who we have seen be responsible for remarkable feats straight from the opening of their capsules, such as Angron immediately slaying Eldari attempting to kill him, or maybe the Lion surviving alone in the wilderness of Caliban, slaying countless of warp-enhanced monsters. The future Warmaster for his part appears to have been fairly unremarkable, until appearing to have his Primarch essence unlocked, either naturally or by the Emperor himself. Horus is a child, and appears to have his genetic ability at healing from grave wounds, but not a lot else. And that is until the events of Horus's journey reach a point where his Primarchhood, if you will, seemingly becomes unlocked, and he experiences some form of vision, where knowledge and reality of the galaxy floods to him, and he witnesses his father. And whether his true Primarch nature seems to be unlocked by either a natural trigger or by the Emperor himself, I really feel is down to your interpretation. But it's the simple fact of having his Primarch nature seemingly unlocked that is particularly intriguing. So was Horus unique in this manner, or is this something that happened to all of the Primarchs? For me, I don't believe Horus was created any differently to his brothers. All of the Primarchs are equal, save for inheriting different aspects of their father, as we know. I do not believe Horus was ever created specifically to be the War Master. However, with that said, I certainly find the idea of Horus having his Primarch essence awakened, for want of a better term, fascinating. Particularly if the Emperor did do this psychically from Terra. That it wasn't some kind of natural trigger within him, but something that was instead triggered by the Emperor himself. And this is something I think is definitely possible. Cophonia, as we know, is one of the closer systems located to Terra, and so it does raise the very possible theory to me that once located, Horus's natural evolution as a Primarch was forced rather than being allowed to naturally mature. It would certainly explain a lot in regards to Horus's maturity and arrogance problems, which yes is present in all of the Primarchs as we know, but let's be honest, the more we've seen of Horus, the more glaring it becomes specifically to him. Maybe rather than being created differently to his brothers, he simply never had the opportunity to live like them. The Emperor had no time to waste, like we know. By the time he had found every other Primarch, they had already naturally grown to maturity, save whatever the true situation may be with Alpharius. However, Horus here was very much not an adult. This awakening moment seems to very much transpire when he is still a child. So I have to admit, as strange as this awakening moment seemed to me at first, it does make me wonder if Cophonia's proximity to Terra simply meant the Emperor was able to locate Horus quite easily, and long before he ever set foot on the world, was able to force Horus's growth or physical maturity long before it was naturally supposed to happen. For all I've read of other Primarchs, for all we've seen of them having feelings and dreams of the Emperor and the throne world, not being able to understand just what it means, we've never really seen them have this some kind of awakening epiphany moment, where everything all seems to make sense in one single moment. So that leads me to believe for the others, it's more a natural evolution and growth. That yes, they grow a lot quicker and bigger than other humans, but they still grew. That their maturity from child to adulthood, as much as the Primarchs had, still happened naturally, just on a much quicker timescale than your average human. But maybe for Horus, it was forced to happen much quicker. It certainly adds another tragic element to Horus's story, that maybe all his flaws were not truly his fault. That yes, he made immature decisions in moments. That yes, his arrogant streak seemed to be stronger in him than others, which is saying something. But if it all come down to the fact the Emperor forced it to happen, rather than letting Horus naturally acquire it for himself, man, it definitely casts another darker light on the Emperor, and another tragic chapter in Horus's story. I really recommend checking this one out and reading it for yourself, to really kind of figure out just what you feel transpires. Why do you feel that Horus appears to have had an awakening of powers moment, whereas other Primarchs don't necessarily seem to have had this too? Did his brothers have a more natural evolution, and was Horus's forced upon him? Or did all Primarchs have this awakening moment of sorts, yet we never truly got to see it? Or at the end of the day, was Horus truly made differently? Did the Emperor always intend him to be War Master? Or, as I feel, was it simply that he landed upon Cophonia, which was closer to the throne world than others? Was it simply the Emperor making the most of the opportunity? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.